to the cloud. Okay, good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Those of you who are here in the flesh and those of you who are going to be watching the recording later, I so appreciate your practice and your energy. Thank you for showing up. So my name is Andrea, as you probably already know, and I am very interested in how we can enhance our mental health during these very challenging times, but also in general. And I'm very interested in the various, psychological and psychotherapeutic techniques that we can all use, and also the ancient spiritual techniques that support our mental health. So I am coming to you today to talk today about leadership and women in particular. So we're going to be doing a really cool meditation today that's for women specifically, or femme identifying individuals. And it's a very, very cool one. I don't know what your thoughts are about the word leadership. But I think we are moving from an old paradigm of what leadership looks like, which has traditionally been viewed as a more male-dominated type of concept. And there's nothing wrong with the masculine perspective on leadership. In fact, we need that. We need to have the more practical, just the male energy around leadership is very important. But we also need for that definition or that experience of leadership in our culture to broaden. And women in particular, we really need women to almost discover what it means to be a leader as a woman, or femme identifying, because it's not going to look the same as somebody who is male identifying. And that's a good thing, right? Because we want diversity on this planet. That's kind of how it's supposed to be. Oftentimes, we are, as I said, we're led by the more male perspective of what it means to be a leader. And when in the past, when women have tried to sort of and have had to sort of fit themselves into leadership positions in more male-dominated workplaces, for example, oftentimes the only way to really survive that or to thrive in that environment is to adopt some of the more male qualities in order to serve on that kind of level, on that scale of leadership. And that's problematic for many reasons. One of the main reasons that that's problematic is because we are in those scenarios, a woman might have to disconnect from some of her more feminine qualities, things like her intuition, leading through her gut, right? Her deeper knowing of what is supportive to herself, to her colleagues, and to the business at large, or the community at large. And also this disconnection from our emotions can take place, because typically, being an emotional leader, it has not really been seen or valued as something of value, right? It's kind of, there's a lot of negative terminology and perspective and mindset around being emotional or being sensitive. And there's a lot of reasons for that that have to do with power imbalances and things like that. So what would it even look like to be a leader as a femme identifying person who may have some of these qualities or gifts really around navigating the emotional landscape and also having connection with our gut, with our intuition? And in a world that is, still maybe not totally accepting of those qualities. Well, it's sort of up to us, right? It's up to us to embrace those aspects of ourselves and to remember that in anything that you do, whether you are leading your household, whether you are a parent, whether you are a partner, whether you are an employee somewhere, whether you are a business owner, whether you're a CEO, whatever position you're in, you can access leadership in that position in a way that is serving you first and foremost, but that's also serving them, whoever the them is around you, your loved ones, your colleagues, and also for all of us. So for us, for them, and for all. And when we think about those layers of service, we can, I think it's a little easier to actually grasp the frequency or the concept of leadership for ourselves, for others, and for all, right? Because this is more in line with how women are typically designed. We understand this inherently, that what's good for us and what's good for them is good for all, right? And the only way we know that, though, is oftentimes, I mean, yes, of course, we need our logical brain. I'm not trying to dismiss that, but we tend to be really good at sensing things and using our sensory system to be able to determine if something is good for us and for them and for all. Right? It's often a knowing. It's often an assessment that takes place, not necessarily simply on the cognitive kind of practical level, although that can be part of it as well. So there's a couple of things we need to kind of embrace in order to show up as leaders. One thing we need to be able to do is to lead ourselves first. And by that, I mean that we need to be able to discern what we need first and foremost to be able to show up for others, right? We have an epidemic of women who have not taken good care of themselves, and there's lots of reasons for that. It's not a criticism or a judgment. We often have not been given the space or the permission to do that. But if we are to show up as leaders the way that we want to within our families, our relationships, our community, and more, we have to prioritize that what we need helps us to show up and serve for ourselves, for them, and for all. And so one way that I think we need to reclaim our natural alignment with what it is to be feminine is our ability to navigate the waves of emotion. Navigating waves of emotion. I think we are, because we've lived for so long and for so many generations in an environment that has discredited, dismissed, disregarded our emotional intelligence, we have learned how to shut ourselves off from our emotions and even to fear them as, something that needs to be avoided at all costs, or quickly squashed or managed or controlled. And of course, that's problematic for many reasons I'm sure you can think about. But in particular, it means that we have forgotten our innate capacity to allow emotions to rise, crest, and fall in our experience. And when an emotion comes, it comes and it crests and it falls. Only afterward, well, and during, I suppose, but more so afterward, can we kind of obtain the information, let's say, that's embedded in that emotion, right? Whether it be sadness, whether it be despair, whether it be fear, whether it be joy, whether it be pleasure, all of it is information about what direction we're going in and what path we're taking, and whether or not we're able to harness the now moment and what it needs from us. That's another aspect of leadership, is continually learning how to discern in any given moment what the moment requires of us, right? What our sort of what we're being called to access or to do or to show up as. And so learning how to do this again is really, really important. And I believe that we actually do this the best when we're with other women, because we inherently know how to hold each other in our emotional experience. I'm wondering if you can think of times when you've had female friends or femme identifying individuals around you that you felt like you were more able, you were more capable, and you were more safe in being able to ride the wave of emotion, even if it was incredibly uncomfortable, because you knew that there was this support around you. And it's a really beautiful concept, and it's a really beautiful thing to remember that that is innate in us. That's our natural state, is to hold and support others. That's the femme energy. And we can also give that to ourselves. It's not easy. It's not easy, but we can gift that to ourselves because it's within our capacity to be able to do that. So how do we learn how to do that? Well, we have to be able to navigate our nervous system. We have to be able to expand our window of tolerance for how much we can experience in the moment, right? So we've talked about this before in other videos. So our nervous system decides what is safe and what is not, right? What is safe to stay present with and to feel, and what is not. And we all have varying degrees of that window of tolerance. And it also changes day to day. It changes depending on where you are in your cycle, how much sleep you've had, etc. But one way to kind of expand the window of tolerance is when there is discomfort, when there are emotions showing up, to really challenge yourself to pause, notice that there's an emotion happening, notice where it's happening in the body. If you can, name it, right? This is sadness. This is despair. This is confusion. This is joy. This is fun. And to just observe it as it will have this natural progression, this rise and fall experience in the body. Oftentimes what happens is we become fearful that we're feeling something intense, and that's very understandable. But what happens is that we, as the emotion rises and crests, instead of allowing it to be able to resolve itself by just staying present and just observing it, we often will spiral up here, right? The mind takes over, tries to solve the problem, and shuts down the system. So we go into either a panic, or we go into a shutdown mode, or we go into self-criticism. Why am I feeling this way? I can't handle feeling this way. This is ridiculous. Why am I doing this? Or whatever the thought process is. And we start to just spiral in, and we get kind of stuck in that emotional state and in that energy state. So the good news is that even though you may have had this experience in your life, and you probably will again, because it's very common for us to get stuck in our emotions, especially when we judge them. By the way, that's one pitfall, let's call it. And the good news is that we can always actually resolve those things later. Now, it's not ideal to do it that way. There could be sort of side effects, I guess you could say, but it is possible to go back to the experience in the body, to pause and to breathe and invite in those emotions again in a way that makes you feel safe, of course, and even titrated is okay. And just rework some of that emotional experience. This applies to grief, of course, which is really the mother, I guess, of all emotional experiences, right? It encompasses every emotion, and it naturally has this progression, and little ones in between that are inherently designed to bring us to a new state of equilibrium, painful though it may be. So learning how to ride the wave of emotion is really what I'm calling on you to do, and calling on all of us to continue to do. And meditation, of course, is one safe container that helps us to do that, right? It helps us to become the observer, right? To become micro-detached from the experience that we're having inside of us, so that we can love ourselves, so that we can know we're okay no matter what we're experiencing, so that we can have big vibe So I heard this recently. I thought this was really cool. I just want to share this with you before we get into our meditation. A very lovely and talented business coach, her name is Melanie Ann Layer, had pointed out that there's a difference between high vibe and big vibe. And I think she was responding to sort of this cultural experience that we're having right now around the importance of being high vibe, right? Like keep the vibes high. And in the spiritual community, that's kind of the lingo right now. And it's not wrong per se. It is important to begin to see things on the level of frequency and realize that your frequency does matter and it changes and shapes the way that you interact with your reality. All that is really important. There are high vibe emotions. There are low vibe emotions. The low ones tend to get sticky and cause problems for us. So it's not that it's not true, but it is not realistic and it's not helpful to have this concept that we need to stay high vibe as though somehow we can just stay really positive and avoid all the sticky stuff. Of course, that's virtually impossible. And actually that's kind of dangerous. And so it just becomes an avoidance, and then we kind of disconnect from ourselves and disconnect from society when we do that. So it's not to say that stay high vibe, you need to stay in a positive state all the time. That's not what's happening. And what her phrase or her the language she used was that it's not about being high vibe, it's about being big vibe. And I like that because it's this idea that our own vibration and our own, I would say nervous system, that's how I would sort of interpret this, is vibrating such that we can hold all the stuff, right, as best we can. All the dark and sticky stuff, we can move through it. We're big enough to metabolize it, essentially. And we're also big enough to hold the good stuff. So for example, when prosperity comes in, when money comes in, when relationships come in, to be big vibe enough to be able to hold all of it, right? And to be able to navigate it all without collapsing. Now, having said that, I just want to say that there will still be moments of collapse and open, because we have to experience what it means to be big by experiencing what it means to be small. But if we can use those experiences, if you've had a difficult experience where you've noticed this contraction and the challenge around holding all the stuff, being able to vibe big enough, that's absolutely okay. And in fact, it's an opportunity to kind of play with that stretching of the nervous system, right? So sometimes it needs to be collapsed and small, but then challenging yourself to experience what it means to get a little bigger, get a little wider, a little bit more, flexible with your ability to ride the waves. So I hope that makes sense. I know that's a lot of concepts coming at you, but I'm hoping that that's landing. Of course, the practical aspect. For today's class specifically, we're looking at the container and the technology of meditation to help us do this. There are other ways too. Simply observing your emotional state, as I mentioned, and naming it and allowing it to move through you is a wonderful intervention, something that I encourage you to try. And even, calling upon your supports. We cannot do this alone. This is not, in order to show up as leaders for ourselves, for others, and for all, it is a group effort. Nobody's an island. We can't do this alone. And women in particular, to access that feminine energy, it's strengthened by the supports that we have around us. So one practical thing is to ask for support and to accept support. That helps us to be good leaders. Daily practice helps us to be good leaders. And if you're struggling with that, just simply noticing the resistance and being with that. That is the practice until you can do it daily. One final thought is to consider how much you experience comparison, complaint, and criticism. Those would be considered low vibe I guess, ways to deal with our emotions, to deal with our inner experience, and to deal with life. Now, that's not to say that there aren't some times when a good, venting session isn't really healing. It can be. So, there's a fine line. It's not that you're not allowed to ever complain. In particular with other women, sometimes we need to gab and kind of gossip and, let it all out. And that's actually okay. But being a leader of your own experience means just paying attention to how often you find yourself falling into comparison, criticism of yourself or others, and complaint. Complaint is a particularly sticky one. Unless you can kind of move through that and get on the other side of it, it oftentimes doesn't really take us anywhere. And for women in particular, it uses a lot of the life force energy in our system that we actually want to have available for other things. So it's, just have your own meter about that and be mindful of those energies and how they operate for you. And I will leave it there for today. So let's move into our meditation. We're going to do a really beautiful one today called Padmani Kriya for energizing and healing. And this is specifically for women or feminine identifying individuals. But first, let's start with our tune-in as always, and then we'll do a few other short meditations that we do for our mental health and well-being, and then we'll try this really cool one. Okay. So I invite you to find your tall spine. We're going to sit in easy pose, or you can sit on a chair if this is not comfortable for you. Let's just start by coming into this moment, rubbing the palms together. Taking a few deep breaths. Maybe noticing your belly and your navel center, which is a really important power center, especially for women, well, for all of us, but let's as women or femme identifying, let's pay attention to this spot. So let's just start by tapping around the navel. I'm just doing this. This is a good way to, if you're in the middle of your day and you're noticing that your energy is dipping, or dripping, you can start to just pat your navel. And even better, you can start to chant in your mind or out loud, depending on what you're doing. Jo, 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 Jo. And what that does is it is vibrating the sound of the navel point. Jo, 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 Jo. So it's like you're waking up. You're like, hello, wake up. And you can notice the shift in your energy. So do that for 3-5 minutes or whatever it is that you need. You can pat on the back too, because what's called the lower dantian in the Tao healing perspective has other names as well, but it's an energy center just down here, right below the belly button point and into the body, 2 inches inside the body. So it's a really important energy center, foundational energy center. So there's a practical tip for you. Just take that one and put it in your back pocket whenever you need a little extra energy. Okay, now let's tune in. Pressing the palms together. Let's take an inhale and exhale first. And inhale to begin. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Om Namo Hold the breath, press the palms together, tall spine, chin in. Focus at the third eye. And exhale. Our tune in helps us to align with ourselves. So now let's do some cat-cow. So you can come onto all fours. And we're inhaling Sat, exhaling Nam. Inhaling Sat, exhaling Nam, rounding the spine. Inhaling deeply. And exhaling, rolling the spine, pulling the navel to the spine. And then coming down into child's pose. Palms are above the head together. And your forehead is toward or touching the ground, and breathing nice and deep into the back of the body as you're in this posture. Okay, slowly, excuse me. Slowly making your way up to seating. Going to do the addiction meditation. So the fingers are into the pads of the palm, the thumbs are sticking out. They're going to be nestling in on your temples, and we're going to be mentally chanting Sa, Ta, Na, Ma. These sounds resonate the elements. So when you chant Sa, Ta, Na, Ma, you are adjusting the elements within your system. And we're doing this for 3 minutes. You're also pulsing the back molars together. Okay, so it's a very gentle pulse. Here we go. let the chanting of Satanama, let it blast through any negative thought patterns, whether you're conscious of them or not. Just imagine that they are just, dissipating any negative thought forms that you may have about self or others. So let it become loud in your mind. And take a deep inhale. Hold the posture. Focus at the third eye in the brow point here. And relax the arms down. Good job. Well done. Okie doke. So now we're going to do this Padmani Kriya for energizing and healing for women only or femme identifying. As we do this meditation, which we'll be sitting in easy pose for, so if you want to shake out your legs for a minute and just get some blood flow, we're going to be focusing on an area of the body that you would like to add some strength, some life force energy to, and some healing. So think about a spot that you might want a little bit of extra TLC, a little bit of extra pranayam, that life force, right? And that's what you're going to be mentally focusing on during this meditation. We're going to sit with a tall spine, chest up, chin slightly in, and the arms are going to come in front. We're going to put the elbows together. I'll do it sideways. And so they're together as best you can. And then the pinkies are touching at the tip here. The thumbs are together and the rest of the hands are spreading out. So you'll notice that it kind of has to come up to your face, or at least it does for me, right about here. Okay. Hello. And what you're going to be doing is looking directly through this little triangle that your pinkies are making. So you're looking very close in front of you, just through that little triangle space that your pinkies are forming in this position, okay? Now what's going to happen is we're going to, what about the eyes? Let me check, I've forgotten. Oh yes, of course. So the eyes are looking directly through this triangle. And what's going to happen is we're going to take a nice, very deep inhale, try to fill up the lungs as much as you can. Then we're going to hold that. And while we're holding it, the thumbs are going to just nestle here underneath your nostrils and just plug. Okay, so that's plugging the energy flow. And we're concentrating on the part inside of our body that we want to bring extra healing and love to. And then when you're ready to exhale, you hold it for as long as you can, and you exhale, you move your thumbs away and you just exhale out. And then you're going to hold the breath out for as long as you can. You don't have to put the thumbs back, just leave them. There's no direction around that. And then when you're ready again, you deeply inhale. You're going to inhale as much as you can comfortably, fill the lungs, and then stop the nostrils. And again, and then you're going to, when you're ready, you're going to exhale it all out and hold it all out as long as you can. Again, mentally focusing on the area that you would like to send that energy to. If it helps, you're welcome to chant any of the mantras that we've used before. You can use sa, ta, na, ma, as we just did. In fact, that's probably what I would recommend. You could use any other one that you know. Another one is Satnam Waheguru. That's another option. So you're just mentally chanting. So I know it's a lot at once, but I'm sure you can do it, and we'll do it together. Okay, so here we go. Just gonna get our timer here. Okay, so breathing at your own pace. Looking through that little window. So you're breathing in deeply as you look through the triangle, and you're holding the breath while plugging the nose. And then when you feel ready, you can exhale all the way out and hold it out for as long as you can, and repeat. Doing great. You're bringing in beautiful life force energy into the cells of your body. It's a very, very powerful healing meditation. Okay, you can finish your round, and then you can relax the arms down and just pay attention to the area of the body that you were bringing that extra healing to. And just send some love. You know, you can tell your body that you love it. You can tell your cells that you love them. It enhances that big vibration we were talking about earlier. Sending positive language and care into our cells, into our body, helps expand our big vibe self, because we have to be able to explore holding the positive energies too, right? Love. Now bring your attention to your heart center. And just take a few breaths into the heart center. Good job. And we're going to end with Longtime Sun, which is a prayer. And we sing it 3 times, one time dedicated to somebody that we know and love that could use some extra support. We send it out secondly to anyone who may need, a stranger who may need a prayer. And God knows there's so many people that need a prayer right now. And the 3rd time we sing it to ourselves, because remember, to lead, to be leaders, to be feminine leaders, we are holding in our awareness that what is good for us first, we take care of ourselves first, with the concept that what is good for us is also good for others, which is good for all. Okay? Here we go.
May the long-time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way on. Guide your way on. May the long-time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure light within guide your way on. Guide
end with one long sat, one short nam. Inhale. Sat Nam. Sat Nam. Thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for showing up to serve. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your struggle. We're in this together. And I appreciate you and I love you and I wish you a beautiful day.
Same to you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.